another episode of What's Up Watchtower, and this will be episode 40. So we are very excited about that. And yes, we are back, and we're just, so much stuff has been pent up inside of us, and we're not stopping. We've had to deal with, really taking care of ourselves emotionally and taking a step back just to process what we've been going through. And, but we just want to thank you guys so much for all of the support that you have continued to provide to us, and we just appreciate it so much. So we just want to mention a couple of things. We will be getting articles up on the website.
Oh yeah, kind of getting back on track with that again.
Yes, and for those that have submitted, and thank you so much. We're going to get them up hopefully in the next week or so. And if not sooner, they might be up before this video gets put up. And another thing to mention is episode 37, which, my goodness, we've had issues because we had a clip in there from the Daily Show, and we didn't realize that that's what was taking, that Viacom had taken it down. So we're in a dispute with them right now about being able to use that clip. And why don't you describe what that clip is, just so give content.
Well, basically it's relevant because the clip itself was interviewing people at a Donald Trump rally. This is before he was elected president. And there were people saying at the rally that regardless of what they had heard about Trump, regardless of what things were true or false, that they would vote for him no matter what, that they didn't need to research any of the facts, that they were just 100% for it, and no matter what the truth was, they were going to do it anyway. So we just had likened it to Jehovah's Witnesses, who were so one-sided in their belief system that they are 100% for whatever the organization puts in front of them without ever looking into the validity or anything like that. So it was a really, I think, an accurate portrayal of the mindset of that type of a person. And I think we used it fairly as well, which is why we're disputing the video being taken down. Yeah. But yeah, so that's basically the gist of it. Exactly.
So if they don't let us, include that clip, we'll put it back up without the content. We'll put a link to the Daily Show video if you want to see it. But anyway, so that's what happened with that. It wasn't Watchtower. Watchtower's not taking us down. Oh, not yet anyway. So some of the other things going on, we just had a presidential election, as Mike just mentioned, and our country is in shock right now. And it's going to be interesting to see what unfolds over the next 4 years during his presidency. But something that happened earlier this week is we did vote, and we posted a photo on our Facebook page, on our What's Up Watchtower Facebook page, of a picture of us after we had just voted. And by the way, this is the third presidential election that we have voted in. And a friend of mine, Susan, said, why did you post that picture? And I said, well, when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, we weren't allowed to vote. And she was just in shock. I forget how shocking these beliefs are to non-witnesses, to people who have never been around this. And she was like, you're kidding, that's your right. And she said, wow, this really is a cult.
Yeah, and I think it's funny too, because witnesses are not allowed to vote, but so many, if you know them well and talk to them, they have a definite opinion about the political structure, about the benefits that the country offers if you're older, about so many things. They have an opinion, but they're not supposed to have an opinion. They're not supposed to vote, but it just shows they're human too. They have an opinion. I just think it's very interesting. I knew a lot of witnesses who were older, very politically aware, very aware of what was going on around the world, made it a point to know, had opinions about every single bit of it, but would never vote. So
yeah. So, anyways, moving on. That's a whole nother video we can make, but we just wanted to mention that as something interesting that happened. And so, anyways, we are going to talk about the November broadcasting. And full disclosure, Mike had a chance to listen to it, but I have not seen it other than the first few minutes. And we started to watch it together, and I said, no, let's stop, let's make a video, and we will give our reactions live. Well, pretty much I will give my reactions live, because I had so many reactions just to the first few minutes of the broadcast.
And there's so much to break down in this video that it may be necessary to break our video here into multiple videos to just not make it like an epic Gone with the Wind kind of a saga. So, you know, we'll work on that too.
Right. So, without further ado, November 2016 JW Broadcasting.
We have selected the theme, Be a Champion of Truth. You may have heard of the word champion used in the context of sports. What is a champion? The word can have different meanings. The word is related to the French word champ, meaning field. That word has its origin in the Latin word campus, also meaning field or battlefield. The Bible speaks of a champion on a battlefield in 1 Samuel chapter 17 and verse 4. Then a champion came out from the camps of the Philistines. His name was Goliath. Goliath was a champion for a wrong cause, namely to take the lead in defeating the ancient Israelites in battle. In our modern time, according to one definition, a champion is an ardent defender or supporter of a cause or another person.
Okay, so the theme of JW Broadcasting November 2016, Be a Champion of the Truth. Well, as soon as he said that, the first thought that came into my mind is, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're trying to champion the truth, to get the truth about the truth out there. And so let's just see how they define that, and let's continue on with the video.
Christians today are ardent defenders and supporters of the truth. The Watchtower of January 15, 2012 said on page 8, quote, "Other champions of Bible truth rose up in the centuries that followed. Years before, the Watchtower said, this magazine will never shrink in fear from championing the truth. The Watchtower has been championing the cause of kingdom truth."
I just think it's interesting that they reference their own publications as something to be recommended. These are words they themselves said, and now they're saying it again, using their old publications as references. It just seems odd to me.
So are you a champion? In a sports competition, only one individual gets to be the champion. But in the case of true Christians, all can be champions of the truth. All Christians are to defend the truth and become conquerors, winners. It's necessary to defend the truth because in today's world, truth is being attacked and distorted. We are surrounded by a sea of lies and misrepresentations.
Okay, so in today's world, we're surrounded by a sea of lies and misrepresentations. And that's true. You know, no matter what the subject matter may be, you have to do your research, and there will be opposing views, and it's up to each person to do the research and see what makes sense to them and try to find the truth about a matter. But I can tell already what they're getting to. They're getting to the point, I'm pretty sure, I may be wrong, we're doing this live. I haven't watched this broadcast, but I have a feeling what they're getting to is they're going to be pointing out that they are being misrepresented, that they are being lied about in the news, in the media, in newspapers, and on the internet, so that true Christians have to know how to defend the truth, and that they need to stand up to those lies and not listen to those lies. I'm pretty sure that's what they're getting to.
Yeah. Well, let's wait to hear what the guy says.
Okay.
How did such lies get started? They started in the Garden of Eden when Satan told Eve lies. Satan, through his deceptive statements, became the father of the lie. All the problems in the world, all calamities, also your personal calamities, all wars, all diseases, all crimes, all unhappiness, sorrow, and death started with the original lies in the Garden of Eden.
So, the first thing that really strikes me, that really just jumps straight out at me at this, is that every bad thing that has ever happened through human history, including your own personal problems, all goes back to one point and one instance where Satan told the first lie. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for a thinking, rational person, that seems like a very simplistic answer to an enormously complex question. And I don't believe it, I don't buy it. It is a flimsy shadow of nothing to cover a gap that they don't understand or can't answer the question to. It just rings so false to me.
Mm. And you had mentioned to me, actually you posted it to Facebook, a series of videos.
Yeah, it was actually a video featuring Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's an astrophysicist and he works for the Hadley Planetarium in New York City. He is a really awesome dude, has a ton of videos on the YouTube, and he hosts the Cosmos and stuff like that. So you guys probably know who he is. But the video in particular that I thought was interesting is he was referencing Greek mythology. And, we all have read stories in Greek mythology, especially in high school or whatever, where that was required. But back then, it wasn't mythology, that was their religion. And they did not know how the world worked the way we know how the world works today. So, when a storm would happen at sea, then it was because Poseidon was angry. Or when there was lightning, it was because Zeus was angry. But that really isn't an answer for anything. And as we can tell through time, history, science, knowledge, that now we understand why lightning happens, we understand atmospheric changes, barometric pressure, humidity, all these different things that they had no concept of back then. So in science, we hear that called the God of the gaps. When in ancient times or in past history, when people got to a point of knowledge where they understood and then reached the precipice where they didn't understand the next thing, they were like, oh, well, that's where it is, and that's in God's hands. God did that. So it's an oversimplification of something you really don't have the answer to. To say everything bad is because of one angel who turned against God and was cast down to earth and is now striving his hardest to get everyone to turn against God is
mythology.
It's mythology.
Mythology that the people who believe in those stories haven't caught up to science.
But we just don't know, and to blame everything on Satan it's not accurate.
Satan is the father of the lie, but today there are many children of the lie. Every one of us is affected. We are surrounded by a sea of lies. A lie is a false statement deliberately presented as being true, a falsehood. A lie is the opposite of the truth. Lying involves saying something incorrect to a person who is entitled to know the truth about a matter.
So, only Jehovah's Witnesses that I have found use this definition of a lie, that it's telling a falsehood to someone who, and they use this word, is entitled to know. So if you're not entitled to know the truth, then it's okay to lie to you. And that's how they always define it. And that gives the elders the permission to lie to the congregants about things, about matters, because those people in the congregation are not entitled to know.
If nothing else, they lie by omission, by having the knowledge and not telling you. Even if you ask a direct question, you won't be told the truth because you don't have the right to know.
That gave them the right to lie under oath. That gave governing body member Jeffrey Jackson the right to lie under oath when he was being questioned by the Australian Royal Commission about various subject matters, such as when he lied when asked, do witnesses believe that they are the only ones being used by God? And he said that would be presumptuous to say that. They asked, do you believe in corporal punishment for children? No. So many lies. Would someone be disfellowshipped for celebrating the holidays if they were an inactive Jehovah's Witness? Oh no, we don't go and if they're inactive, if they don't want to be a witness, we don't go and search them out to disfellowship them for celebrating the holidays. We all know these are lies. But to them, those that were asking the questions were not entitled to know the truth.
And I don't know about you guys out there watching, but if somebody says to me, my definition of lying is not giving the truth to someone who doesn't have the right to know, I don't trust that person. I don't trust somebody who has a twisted definition of the word lying so that it can be used to their benefit when they want it to. A lie is a lie. We all know what it is. It's a mistruth, a falsehood, something told to deliberately mislead.
A half-truth.
There is no, a lie is a lie, but that's not how it works. So this whole concept of theocratic warfare and of lying and being able to get away with basically lying if people who you're talking to aren't deserving of knowing the answer, that's kind of a loophole that they themselves have created so as to not have to come forward with the truth, which is what we're basically getting at.
But there's also something that is called a half-truth. The Bible tells Christians to be honest with each other.
So the Bible tells Christians to be honest with each other. Did we ever find out who turned us in for making videos?
No, we didn't.
No. How about that time that somebody was calling your father and saying some stuff that involved investigation from elders, and you directly asked a question to see if it was a specific person who called? Did you get the truth about that from the elder?
No, I did not.
Did you get lied to by the elder?
I did get lied to.
And we found proof of that, didn't we?
We did find proof of that.
Now that you have put away deceit, speak truth, wrote the Apostle Paul at Ephesians 4:25. Lies and half-truths undermine trust. A German proverb says, "Who lies once is not believed even if he says the truth." So we need to speak openly and honestly with each other, not withholding bits of information that could change the perception in the listener or mislead him.
So he's talking about half-truths here that would be misleading. How many times has the Watchtower misquoted people or done something called quote mining, where they have intentionally made what someone said in a quote be completely different than what they actually said, to the point that they have actually been sued over this? And that's why the Trinity brochure is no more. That's why they've completely phased out the creation book. Now, not just because whatever the creation book is out of date because of when it was written. No, it's because now people have access to the information and to be able to go and find those books and easily find them now that everything's digitalized. They are able to go on and see, hey, they've totally misquoted this author, this scientist. So they are so guilty of doing exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
As to lies, there are different types. Some politicians have lied about matters they wanted to keep secret. Companies sometimes lie in advertisements regarding their products. What about the news media? Many try to report events truthfully, but we should not be gullible and believe everything newspapers write or everything we hear on radio or see on television.
So here we're having a chance to hear Garrett Loesch explain the different types of lies. And again, for an honest person, there's really only just a lie. A white lie, a big lie, a small lie, as he says, political lies, religious lies. They're all just lies. There's no categories for lying. I mean, if you want to make yourself feel good about something and say, well, it's just a little white lie, hey, that's totally up to you. It's still a lie. And I'm not trying to get on anybody's case about it, but that is the truth. You're misleading someone, you are lying. It wasn't that long ago that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society was busted as belonging to the United Nations as an NGO, a non-governmental organization. So what has happened is there was so much inquiry about it. There was an article written in the Guardian newspaper, and almost immediately after that story came to light, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society revoked their membership to the United Nations as an NGO. They denied that they were a part of the United Nations. Once it was proven that they had been a part of the United Nations, then they came up with a story to say, well, we needed access to use the library there, so we became a member to use the library. When that was proven to be a lie, that you did not need to be a member to have access to the library, then they started just denying that it ever happened. And it became such an issue that the press secretary for the United Nations office, they had released an actual press forum showing all of this information because so many people had called up to confirm. So we've seen evidence of the organization from the top lying and misrepresenting the truth to those all the way down. So as he says, once a person tells a lie, it builds mistrust. It's so ingrained in you to believe a certain way and to trust, but you're being lied to.
They can't fathom a reality where the Watchtower, where the governing body could ever intentionally lie to them. But even when they're caught red-handed in a lie, will they ever print a retraction in their magazines if they've misquoted somebody? Do they ever print a retraction or an apology? They've never done that, ever. So that hubris makes them even less trustworthy.
And that is just the tip of the iceberg for what we're going to be seeing with this organization, because now everything is online, and like Robin said before, you can research old books and old publications, things that were quoted, and it shows that they have been lying. They have been misrepresenting. They've been telling you half-truths.
Then there are religious lies. If Satan is called the father of the lie, then Babylon the Great, the global empire of false religion, can be called the mother of the lie. Individual false religions could be called daughters of the lie. Some lie by saying that sinners will get tormented in hell forever. Others lie by saying, once saved, always saved. Again, others lie by saying that the earth will be burned up on Judgment Day and all good people will go to heaven.
And still some others will lie and say that only 144,000 go to heaven. Everyone who doesn't believe exactly the way they believe will be destroyed in a fiery, wrathful, vengeful Armageddon by their loving God.
Some worship idols. Paul wrote in Romans chapter 1 and 25, They exchanged the truth of God for the lie and venerated and rendered sacred service to the creation rather than the Creator. Then there are many lies of a personal nature that people express in everyday life. A businessman may get a phone call, but tell his secretary to answer the caller by saying he's not in. This may be considered a small lie. There are small lies, big lies, and malicious lies. A child may have broken something, but when asked initially, out of fear of punishment, denies having done it. This does not make the child a malicious liar. In contrast, what if an entrepreneur tells his bookkeeper to falsify the entries in the books in order to save on taxes? This lying to the tax office is certainly a serious lie. It is a deliberate attempt to mislead somebody that has the right to know.
There we go again. Mislead someone who has the right to know. Their definition of a lie is in itself a lie.
It also robs the government of what they have established as legal income. We can see that not all lies are the same. There are small lies, big lies, and malicious lies. Satan is a malicious liar. He is the champion of the lie. Since Jehovah hates liars, we should avoid all lies, not just big or malicious lies.
Yes, they should avoid all lies. They need to take their own advice.
But can we find the truth? Some say truth is relative. It is like saying, this is truth for you and this is truth for me. This claim is not logical when it comes to religious truth. Either God is a Trinity or he is not. Either the soul is mortal or it is not. Either there's a future paradise on earth or there's not.
And here we are with examples of flawed reasoning. Well, either God is a Trinity or he's not. Well, what if you don't believe in the Christian God? What if you believe in a different God? What if you're not a Christian? What if you are a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Muslim or any other faith that believes in a different God or different types of God? What if you're Wiccan? What if you're a pagan? What if, there's different beliefs about God. So this whole thought about God is either a single God or God is a Trinity. No, that's false. That whole argument is false. The whole argument stands on nothing.
Because none of it is provable either way.
Everything they say is a flaw. It's a flawed argument in the way he's describing this. It's not either or. Life is not either or. There's always more options.
Either homosexuality is acceptable to God or it is not. Either participating in wars is permissible or it is not.
Either participating in wars is permissible or it is not. Well, God directed enough wars that I'm guessing that participating in war is permissible because God sure killed a hell of a lot of people.
Truth is definite, not relative, because Jehovah conveyed the truth to his servants. Psalm 43, verse 3 says, "Send out your light and your truth." Jehovah is a revealer of truth.
So Jehovah is a revealer of truth, but only to those who have the right to know.
And only very slowly, incrementally, when he feels they're ready to know the next thing. But in the meantime, he's allowing you to believe all kinds of falsehood and lies until he's ready to reveal
New light.
new light.
Get ready.
One of several reasons why Jesus came into the world is to witness to the truth. At John 18, 37b, he said, "For this I have been born, and for this I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is on the side of the truth listens to my voice." So if we listen to Jesus or read in the Bible what he taught, we can learn the truth. Jesus was the personification of the truth. He said, I am the way and the truth and the life. We can find out what the truth is by diligently studying the Bible.
Again, truth found in the Bible. What if you're not a Christian? What if you belong to another faith? What if you believe that the Bible is just a compilation of books written by men and gone through and picked apart by other men and compiled as to what belongs as canonized books by yet a group of other men, and then translated for thousands of years by yet other men? What if it's just a book from men? Then the idea that this book is the be-all and end-all of truth not only excludes most of the world's population who isn't Christian, but it also excludes anyone who has a requirement for proof in this matter.
So along with what Mike was saying, I'm reading a very interesting book right now. I would encourage all of you who are seekers and looking for truth to take a look at Bart Ehrman's new, well, I don't know how new it is, but I didn't have this book. It's a more recent one. I have some of his older books called Jesus Interrupted. And it says revealing the hidden contradictions in the Bible and why we don't know about them. So it's very interesting when you start really picking apart the scriptures that as all Christian religions, Christian faiths have tried to do, is to make things that totally contradict each other somehow conglomerate and make sense. And when you look at it from a perspective of being written by men, then you start to understand that they were writing from their own point of view, from their own biases, from their own what was important to them to make known. And that just like all oral tradition, which is how stories were gathered and retold throughout centuries until we had the written words, until they were written down in book form, that stories change. Just like a game of telephone that you might have played when you were a child, that when stories were told and retold, that people remembered specific points, they forgot other points, they embellished. And so that's why when you're looking at, strictly looking at the scriptures, that you don't even know if what you're reading was what was actually initially written. There have been so many changes. So for those who are seeking truth, it's going to take a lot more than just reading Watchtower's version of the truth.
Yeah. I mean, and going right along with what you said, I learned after I had left and quit being a Jehovah's Witness that there are other books to the Bible that did not make it into the canonized version of the Bible, books that were discarded at the Nicene Council. Mm-hmm. And that is where basically Emperor Constantine got together all of the bishops and cardinals at the time, and they decided what would be in the Bible and what wouldn't make it. And there are books that were written at the same time period that the books that are in the Bible were written. Sister books to the books that are in the Bible, but they weren't included because their story didn't quite fit with what they wanted to portray Christ as being. Mm-hmm. Or other details were just omitted because it didn't fit the big picture. And you have to also remember that at the time, the reason that they were doing this and kind of simplifying the Bible and canonizing books and creating this one book was to unite people as well, to unite people of different faiths and of different religions, trying to incorporate pagan rituals at the time, along with the new Christian thing that was happening. And, there was a lot more to it than that. And all of this is historically recorded.
Truth is that which is a fact. For true Christians, the entire text of the Hebrew and Christian Greek scriptures constitutes the truth. Psalm 119, verse 160 says of Jehovah, "The essence of your word is truth." That is why it is good to do daily Bible reading with meditation, and weekly family worship. At Matthew 24:45-47, we read that for the time of the end, Jesus would appoint a faithful and discreet slave or governing body.
Whoa.
Stop the press. Jesus would appoint a faithful and discreet slave or governing body. It doesn't say that in the scripture. I love how he just inserted that in there.
And at the time of the end, he would appoint this. If you read the scriptures in context, it says nothing of the sort. It is a parable. It is a parable.
Or governing body.
To explain the Bible to his followers and help them to grow in understanding of the truth.
I just love how they've added so much to the scriptures. And they've said the same things over and over and over so many times, and at every opportunity, in every Watchtower, you will find the same wording. You will hear the same things at almost every meeting. You'll hear the same things over and over at the conventions, to the point where they have created their reality. But if you read in context the scriptures that they're talking about, it says nothing of the sort of what they're saying. So just think about that. Just think about how they have created a new gospel.
Whereas Jesus' teachings and the written word of God are inspired, the faithful and discreet slave is not inspired, although it champions the truth.
That's not what they've always said. They have claimed to be prophets before. The information is out there, and we will put links to it.
They've also claimed that Holy Spirit works through them, that they are the channel that God speaks through.
That is what a prophet is, and that a prophet is inspired by God. That is a foregone conclusion. If you're using all of those words, then a foregone conclusion is that they have to be inspired to be God's channel. How else would they be God's channel if he wasn't using them like a prophet?
But they have to backpedal on that now, because they have to be able to claim human ignorance, human error as the reason for the doctrinal changes, for the reason for the overlapping generations' teachings. They have to be able to claim that that's a human error and calculation, because if they admitted, like they said before, that the organization, that especially the governing body, was inspired by God, they were, his channel, and they got this wrong, that would mean God was wrong. And that just doesn't work for their plan. That just doesn't work. So now it's accepting responsibility to the tiniest amount. Actually, it's denying what they said in the past.
It's denying any responsibility for anything that they've said before, is what it is.
Yeah, so that they can be, kind of, that's not our fault.
Yep.
We're imperfect.
Nevertheless, the faithful slave provides spiritual food, whereas in the first century there was supernatural knowledge available for apostles and Bible writers. In the time of the end, Jehovah does not bestow this miraculous gift anymore, as explained at 1 Corinthians 13:8.
But that's all most people really need, right? Is just a little bit of proof. A little bit of proof. In the past, God provided proof. God provided miracles. He showed people who had doubts and questions. Even Jesus, in the instance or parable or story or writing of doubting Thomas, was more than willing to show proof to someone who showed doubts so as to convince them. And I just find it somewhat convenient that we have no proof nowadays. There are no miracles. There are no, according to Garrett Loesch, there's no miracles. There's no type of special intervention that we can say now is directly a result of God's intervening as a miracle. There's no proof.
And the point that he is trying to make here is that the gifts of prophecy would have ended. I think that's the scripture that he is quoting, although apparently they don't read any scriptures anymore. I'm pretty sure that was the scripture that he was referring to, and that so they can't claim that they were divinely inspired. But yet, you still can't question that spiritual food. You can't question what they've written in the Watchtower as to whether it's correct or not. Otherwise, you're an apostate.
Although there is no divine inspiration today, still Jesus leads his people progressively through the services of the faithful slave. Jesus trusts that the imperfect faithful slave will do its best to convey spiritual food. Do you also trust the slave?
Nope. No, we don't. And that's a self-appointed term, faithful and discreet slave, that they are describing themselves, even though they have no right to do that. So, no, we don't trust them. We've seen over and over reasons to not trust them at all.
Yeah, just go to one of your local elders in your congregation with proof of one thing, just one thing simple, like, for example, the Jehovah's Witnesses belonging to the United Nations. Just go to him with proof of one thing and think that you can have an honest and open discussion with your brother. And you see where that is going to get you. It is going to get you into a storm of trouble.
Yes, it is. The first question they're going to ask you is, where did you find this information? Not whether it's true or not true. I can guarantee you that the first question is going to be, where did you get this information? What websites have you been looking at?
Yeah, so automatically...
You're the one that's out in the wrong.
Automatically the tables get turned. Before you even get a sentence out, the tables are now turned and you are under investigation. Now you are the problem.
Whereas the truth of God's word does not change, our understanding of the truth does change because we are not perfect yet. We understand more about the truth today than Christians in the first century. Do we keep up with the progressive understanding of truth?
All right, I have a really big problem with this. This goes back to the New Light theory that they have. Why is it in God's interest that his people not understand his truth, and that he has to slowly reveal truth to them? When in Hebrew scriptures, when the prophets said something, when did those prophets ever say something that wasn't true? And then God said, well, you didn't have a real understanding of what I actually meant. This is what I actually meant. No, whatever was said was going to happen was what was going to happen. And they had a very clear understanding of that. When Jesus said, when Jerusalem is surrounded by the encampments, but that you need to get out, those who knew that prophecy got out. Jesus didn't say, well, you might need to get out, it might be a good time to start thinking about getting rid of some of your possessions. No, he was very clear in his instructions about that. I'm just using what they believe against them in this argument, that God doesn't need to hide anything from his followers in order to get them to stay in his organization. It just doesn't make any sense. So either what they were teaching before was false or not.
And that just goes back to what he said before. The truth is the truth. Okay, well, if now we believe that there are overlapping generations that started from the generation of 1914, and now there's another overlapping generation before the end comes, that truth is different than the truth that you and I were raised with growing up as Jehovah's Witnesses. So Was the truth that we had the wrong truth, or is the new truth the actual truth? Think about that. You know, because when we were raised, that was it. The generation of 1914 would not pass away. Armageddon would come. You know, and you figure that would have been in 2014. That generation would have been well over 100 years old if they're counting back to when they had the age of reason thing going on. So either way, that is a truth that we have seen in our lifetime be false. It's proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that what we were taught our entire life growing up was false. Because that prophecy did not come true. And to tell us now, well, there's more truth and there's more to it that we didn't understand and we have a new understanding, well, that just doesn't work, because that is not the truth we were originally told. And if it was the truth, it doesn't need amendments, it doesn't need changes, it doesn't need updates. It was either the truth or it wasn't the truth. And we have proved to ourselves beyond the shadow of a doubt that it was not the truth. Hence, how can anything they say be the truth?
Daniel was told, "Many will rove about, and the true knowledge will become abundant." This is a gradual process. We are still roving about.
Again, I believe that is a misunderstanding, a misuse of that scripture. Truth becomes abundant when it is spread, but it is still the same truth. So nowadays, information is spread usually now through the internet. It used to be spread through newspapers, and before that it was spread through word of mouth. And in various ways, it took longer for a truth to make it to another part of the earth. Whenever there was wars, they had to wait weeks, sometimes months, if it was overseas, to find out what actually happened. Well, now we have the internet, things are instantaneous, we know. So saying that truth was going to become abundant doesn't mean that the truth was going to change, that it was becoming more progressive. It just means that it was going to be spread. The same truth would have spread throughout the earth.
During the millennium, Jehovah will reveal additional truths to mankind. At Revelation 20:12, it mentions scrolls that will be opened. The Apostle John reports that the dead are to be judged out of those things written in the scrolls according to their deeds. Evidently, then, these scrolls will contain additional information for mankind during the 1,000 years.
New updates.
New updates, but those would be coming from God, from written word, not what is already existing. It's such circular logic.
It's like Apple. Every time you turn my phone on, there's a new update. There's a new update ready to change something, and you just get sucked in and you have to do it. And it's just like the same thing. Updates aplenty.
Apple is a progressive company.
Progressive truth.
And it's progressive truth, and we need to stay in step with Apple.
It stands to reason that after the end of the millennium, there will be additional truths to learn. Still, according to Ecclesiastes 3, verse 11, mankind will never find out the work that the true God has made.
So at the end of the millennium, there will be additional truths to learn. So this is, if you've already gotten through this old wicked system of things, and you've gone along with all the changes of the truth, and then you survive Armageddon, and then you go through that entire millennium, 1,000 years.
Where Satan is let back out.
And it's just, okay, new truths after the 1,000 years, new truths coming. How does he know that, first of all? How does he know what's coming in 1,000 years if there's no channel of communication with God, if there's no spirit anointed, spirit direction, how do they know what's going to happen in 1,000 years?
But how do we know we have the truth? At Pentecost 33 of our Common Era, true Christians numbered only about 3,000. Today we are millions, and on average, every weekend, more than 5,000 are getting baptized. But this in itself is not proof that we have the truth. Truth is not measured in numbers.
I don't know that I've ever heard them say before that truth is not measured in numbers, because they've always been very proud of their growth and have used that as a measure of showing that they had truth, whereas always showing other religions that their numbers were falling and that theirs were growing. So it's very interesting, I find, that he would mention that, because their numbers are stagnating, and in fact they're not keeping up with the human population growth rate. So they're making this comment now, which is very interesting, because they know that anybody that's going to start doing research about that is going to see.
Well, an interesting point too, and I just saw this in one of the most recent Mike and Ken videos, is that between 10 years ago and now, and this is in their publication in the list of, the yearly annual report that shows the countries and the publishers and blah, blah, blah. There are 21 less branch offices now than there were a decade ago. So that is an average of just over 2 branches closing per year for the last decade. So these are branches that house people, that in some cases handle shipments and or printing and other major responsibilities for the organization that are spread out. So in the last decade, 21 branches closed. Does that show growth to you? The magazines are getting smaller. Does that show growth to you?
Yeah, and they used to really be proud of all of that growth. And now they're retracting from it. They're trying to wipe away all the things that they said before. They're erasing their history.
And they still claim to need kingdom halls to be built, and yet there are kingdom halls going up for sale here in the United States all over the place. I've seen numerous ads that have been shared on Facebook for kingdom hall buildings that were up for sale, and other information about closings, kingdom halls closing, and people having to go to a different congregation. So certainly that is witnessing the opposite of growth. Even though they can tell you we're growing, it's not what you see with your own 2 eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we know we have the truth? For one, because we remain in Jesus' teaching, John 8:31. Second, we know we have the truth because of the deep bond of love for each other, John 13:35.
I love all their reasonings for why they are the true religion, the deep love they have amongst themselves. Well, we've done videos about this. I just put up a video about this, about lack of love within the organization and all the experiences. And I have so many stories, and I'm not sure that I will tell all of them, but I have so many stories of just witnessing a sheer lack of love and people treating you in a way I would never treat anybody, and in a way that I've never been treated by people in the world. So this is just a bold-faced lie.
I don't know about you, but my Jehovah's Witness parents don't talk to me anymore just because I don't believe what they believe. So how loving is that?
Third, we know we have the truth because our conduct adheres to the high moral standards of truth. John 15:10.
Conduct. Well, we also have a lot of stories about the type of conduct that we have witnessed when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, to the point that even while we were still active Jehovah's Witnesses, we would not hire a Jehovah's Witness to do any work on our home. We got to that point after seeing abuse after abuse after abuse by witnesses to other witnesses on how they treated them while working on their homes.
Yeah, poor business dealings. And of course, no one would ever rectify the situation. You know, you're pretty much free to do bad work for your brother because you know he's not going to fight you about it. You know he's not going to call the cops. You know he's not going to take you to court. You know he's going to eat the loss.
Fourth, we know we have the truth because we remain neutral in the controversies of the world, as Jesus advised at John 17:14.
Just because you don't get involved with taking a stand for anything doesn't make you a true religion. It just means you're a pacifist. And there are pacifists in other religions. It also means you don't have a say in what happens in your country if you're not getting involved.
I actually think it's different than being a pacifist. I think it's outright lazy. You know, I mean, truthfully, if you want to be a pacifist, learn both sides. Learn everything about that you need to know and then make a decision not to get involved or whatever. But you can't just say, oh, that's something God's going to take care of, and don't learn a thing about it. Don't know how the system works. Don't know how the world around you works. It's ignorance. It's lazy. It's just lazy. And you have an excuse to be lazy because you're told that you don't have to be involved with any of that business.
Fifth, we know we have the truth because we are God's named people. Acts 15:14 speaks of a people for his name.
So in this broadcast, like many others, they're proud to call themselves God's named people. But it wasn't that long ago in a JW Broadcasting episode that how they described that Jehovah was not the accurate pronunciation of God's name, that it was most likely Yahweh, that the reason they use the name Jehovah is because it's widely accepted and or popular. So this whole reason of using God's name as being part of truth, a part of the reason that they can call themselves the truth, is a complete misnomer, because if you just watch past episodes, you'll see where they just shot that theory right down.
Jesus said, the truth will set you free. It sets us free from fears, like the fear of death, fear of the future, and an exaggerated fear of man. It also sets us free from false teachings, from spiritism, and from astrology and magic. It frees us from immorality and its consequences. There are no other people on earth that are as spiritually free as we are. Do we appreciate that freedom?
Once again, you just make a claim that you can't back up. There are no people in this world as spiritually free as we are. And they talk about freedom from fear. Well, the witnesses that I knew were the most fearful people that I knew, most of them. And this, I've said this before, manifest, I believe, in all kinds of physical ailments that you would see, psychological ailments. And yeah, we live in a fear-based world, and the media definitely just, definitely feeds into that. But if your belief system, your spiritual belief system are also so fear-based, then it's going to have an even deeper psychological effect.
Truth leads to freedom. 2 Corinthians 3:17 says, where the Spirit of Jehovah is, there is freedom. The truth penetrates schools. How so? By means of our children who preach the truth to classmates and to teachers. Do you go to school? Do you champion the truth at school? How can you do this? You do this not only by preaching, but also by your conduct, by your dress and grooming, and by taking a stand for the truth when others want you to participate in unchristian practices. You also champion the truth by remaining honest and not cheating on your exams. And Jehovah will love you for that. The truth also penetrates prisons. Reports have come in from many countries telling of the good work brothers are doing in contacting prisoners in various prisons, helping some to rehabilitate their lives spiritually. In a number of such institutions, regular meetings are being held, and several prisoners have studied to the point of dedication and baptism. The truth penetrates even walls of monasteries. In Mexico, in 2009, a nun was baptized who, because of the truth, had left her monastery and order, although she was the Mother Superior. The world is in utter confusion. What a blessing to know the truth. We rejoice in it. We have the truth on our lips. We have the truth around our hips. Ephesians chapter 6 says that the belt of truth is fastened around our waists. We are ready to teach it. We talk the truth and we walk in the truth. And those who continue to walk in the truth will walk in it forever. Help your students to love the truth and to live the truth, but if necessary, to be willing to die for the truth and for Jehovah. The truth is invincible and will conquer this wicked world. In some countries, we may have many enemies who may want to silence us. But the Apostle Paul said at 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 8, "For we can do nothing against the truth. Neither can our enemies suppress the truth." Do we appreciate that we have the truth, the only truth?
But yet they would suppress anybody who would speak against them. They don't want to be suppressed, but yet they would suppress former members, and suppressing them by removing their families from their lives so that they can no longer have relationships with former friends and family. So they're doing exactly what they're accusing others of having done to them.
Is this arrogant to say? Is this arrogant to say?
Yes.
By no means. By no means. It would be a sin if we would not say so. Jesus was not arrogant when he said, "I am the truth." To know the truth is not enough. We need to champion it. There are still many lovers of truth out there. Search for them. Who will help you in the search? According to John 4:23, Jesus said that Jehovah is searching for ones that want to worship in truth. The majority will not listen to the truth because they love the darkness rather than the light. The truth may expose their sinful conduct, and they may not have the humility to want to repent and change. We still have to preach to them, to warn them. Ezekiel was told, "You must warn them from me." The principle applies to us as well. Paul speaks of the sword of God's word. Use it well to champion the truth. Train your students to be good defenders of it as well.
Train them to be able to regurgitate everything that we've been telling you, our interpretation of this, and that's it. It's not learning anything. It's not delving deep into it. It's not breaking it down. It's not research outside of anything they've said. It's just regurgitating what we're telling you over and over and over again.
The time will come in paradise after the final test when it will not be necessary to champion or defend the truth because nobody will attack it anymore. Right now, whether we are adults, teenagers, or children, let us follow and imitate Jesus, the greatest champion of truth. To that end, keep studying the truth, keep spreading the truth, keep loving the truth and Jehovah, the God of truth. Hold fast to the truth as to a lifeline, as this is what it is. By staying faithful, whether you survive Armageddon or are resurrected in paradise, you will be a victorious champion of the truth.
So here's a challenge to any Jehovah's Witnesses watching this. Garrett Loesch just used the words the truth, about a dozen times there. And I'm going to say, you can't call it the truth unless you've researched it from outside sources and know for a fact that it's true. Otherwise, you're just taking his word for it. You're taking the Watchtower Bible Tract Society's word for it. You're taking your parents' word for it. You're taking the people who you studied the Bible with to come into the truth. You're taking their word for it. But you don't know. And until you do outside research, you can't call it the truth.
I mean, he must have used that term, the truth. I don't know. It'd be interesting to go back. This is 18 minutes. How many times he used it? Probably over 100 times, I would say, in this whole segment. It was just used over and over and over. And that is a mind control technique, to use a word over and over and over. And I can just imagine, I mean, I'm exhausted. We're 18 minutes into this broadcast, and I'm freaking exhausted. I don't know that I can continue. Because, I mean, really, because my brain just is exploding, because I've woken up. But for those that are asleep, that this is just like a little bedtime story. It's like listening to, I don't know, it's just like listening to a repetitive sound over and over that feels good.
Oh, like one of those wave machines.
Yeah, that's what it's like for them. Oh, this feels good. Oh, we have the truth. Oh, this feels so nice. Yes, I'm determined to stay in the truth. And they have not thought about anything that he's actually said, because they haven't done the research.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for those of us who have, that's why it's so hard for us to watch these broadcasts, because it's just spewing lie after lie after lie. And it's just, I don't know if I can make it through.
Well, we can stop this video here. Okay. And this will be the first segment. So the thing that we can talk about, we can wrap up this first segment of this video. This is only 18 minutes and 52 seconds in. We could talk about this for 5 hours, without any difficulty whatsoever. Something that I learned, that I heard again from Neil deGrasse Tyson, coolest guy on the planet, that what is important about truth, about learning, about critical thinking, is that we're not telling you, believe this, believe that, this is truth, this isn't truth. What we are hoping to show you are the tools that you yourself possess to critically think about these issues for yourself, to know the right questions to ask so that you can prove something to yourself, whether it's true or false. And that's what our goal is. This constantly saying, this is the truth, this is the truth, this is the truth, it may convince people that it's the truth just because it's been called that so many times. But like Robin just said, you haven't done the research, you don't know. And it's at some point we just have to call it out. You're being asked to rely on other people's research, and you're being guaranteed that it's 100% correct. Well, Garrett Loesch even told you, hey, if you're watching something on broadcasting, on television, you can't trust all of that stuff. So,
but you can trust us. We've done the research for you.
You would really be foolish when he himself is telling you, don't trust everything you see on TV, and you trust everything he tells you. You're going against his own advice, and yet he knows you will. He knows you will, because he knows you are just lulled into sleep and you're too tired to wake up and do the research. Your mind is completely asleep. And if you're indoctrinated as a Jehovah's Witness and watching this, somebody's has given you a nudge. Somebody has prodded you, poked you, made you wake up to even come, to this part of YouTube and search for this, look for this. But,
And we commend you if you've watched this video. And, keep doing your research. We don't have all the answers, but we have done a lot of research.
we know some of the answers are wrong. We know that for sure. So, it's just we're gonna tackle this at some other point. Maybe I'll take part of it. Robin will take part of it. We'll get it done. But the first part will go up. It gives us a lot to think about. And these JW broadcastings, it's so much information, and so much of it is wrong.
Yeah, it's not information as far as, wow, this is so informative, I'm learning so much. It's like, wow, this is so much bull. How do we sort through all of the bull?
Yeah, it often makes us do independent research, to look up things that were said, to check statistics, to check numbers. And we do that. And I'm not telling you to rely on our facts either. Please check it yourself. That's why we usually throw our sources up there in the links so that you can know where we got the information. But
all right. Well, we'll conclude this part of the JW broadcasting, and I know there's another part of it that we need to get to, just based on the opening of this one, of what they're going to be talking about. So we will get to that. So thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing if you've subscribed. If not, then please subscribe.
And we're back. We're busy, but we're making it work one way or another.